Welcome back to An Audience of One by JannahVersity, in which we deliver spiritually uplifting and motivational content to individuals who need a reminder that they have worth, that they have value, and that they have a gift that they need to share with the world, and that regardless of how many mistakes that they've made, that it's never too late to make today the day that they change their lives. One of the most important battles that we're going to face along any journey that we take throughout this life is going to be to maintain the purity of our intention for what it is that we're doing. Your intention is something that's going to change over time. It can change because you change directions, or it can change because it's affected by outside factors. Sometimes it's necessary because you've decided to take a different route with your life. And sometimes it's necessary because you have impure intentions for what it is that you're doing. But when you're working to improve yourself, and for God, and you're working to benefit other people, for the sake of benefiting other people, and for pleasing God, then it's important that you protect your intention from outside influences. When you're working towards these goals with a pure heart, it's important that you realize the dangers of having these intentions corrupted. Previously, we talked about how it's important to protect your intentions and your actions from being influenced by the crowd or by the gatekeepers. Either because you're afraid of the backlash that you'll receive from the haters among the crowd, or because you won't be welcomed back by your peers or the gatekeepers. Allowing your intentions and actions to be corrupted by these outside influences comes from a place of fear. You're afraid of what they may say, you're afraid of being exposed, you're afraid that they won't welcome you back, or that they won't give you an invitation back to the arena. The problem with concerning yourself with the crowd or the gatekeepers out of fear is that it can intimidate you into inaction. When you're so worried about what other people think of you, of your actions, of your goals, that you cease to do anything. But there's another side of this coin in which the sincerity of your actions can be corrupted. And it's not because of your fear of the crowd, but it's because of your attempts to please it and feed into it. You have to be careful that you don't fall for the trap of trying to influence the perception of others through turning your transformation into a performance, and that can come in different forms. There's a lot that you've been through, and there's a lot that you've learned. So there's a lot that you potentially have to teach others and to benefit others with, based off of the experiences that you've had. But you have to be careful that the work that you do moving forward doesn't become a performance about your comeback story, where you emphasize your trials to gain sympathy, or to make your climb back up the mountain all the more fantastic. Do not make your struggle about making people feel sorry for you or the things that you went through. They weren't there when you needed them to be, and they don't care now. Instead, focus on the work that you had to do and the work that needs to be done. Don't spend another moment in self-pity. You wasted enough time there, and any attention you gain through such an effort will be completely superficial. Another aspect of this is that you don't want to fall into the trap of using your struggles as a way to bring attention to yourself, where you fall into the trap of exposing yourself and your faults. Yes, there's benefit in knowing where you came from and what you had to overcome in order to get to where you're at. And for some, this may bring credibility to the advice that you give others, but at the end of the day, real recognizes real. And if people feel as if they can't benefit from you unless they understand the fine details of your struggles, then they can keep it moving. Don't put your struggles out there because you're seeking sympathy. Don't put your struggles out there because you think it gives you more credibility. Don't put your struggles out there because no one needs to know the details. It's one thing if you're reaching out to somebody who's at where you were and needs to hear from somebody who's made it out. But you don't want to make a spectacle of your shortcomings, because there's a thin line between sharing your faults as a way of warning others of the pitfalls of straying from the path and celebrating your faults as a way of bringing attention to yourself. You see a lot of people who parade their struggles around like it's a competition to see who screwed up their life more. And these are not things that we should take pride in. Like a bunch of veterans bragging over scars as they trade war stories for battles that were mainly fought in their minds, the casualty of which was their souls. Yes, we're grateful to have survived, but there's nothing from that war that we're proud of. It's best to keep those atrocities to yourself and to those who shared those battles with you. You're not here to compete with people as to who had it worse. There is no competition for who gets the furthest away from God. That's a competition that you don't want to be in, because a participation trophy from that race is nothing short of despair, destruction, and shame. Now, this is a tricky thing to balance because you most likely draw a lot of inspiration from your experiences. There's a difference between utilizing your story as a place to learn from and utilizing your story as a theater production. There's a lot of strength that you can draw from your story and from your struggles, but there's a fine line between drawing motivation from your story and using it as a platform for self-gratification. People love drama. They love tragedy. They really love evil. And even if they don't like participating in it, they love spectating. So don't make a spectacle of yourself or of your history. Most of them won't even understand it anyway. And even though they may be entertained by it, this is not the circus and you're not a clown performing in it to attract attention to yourself or your efforts. Personal growth should not be turned into a performance for the purpose of gaining sympathy, fame, or validation. The focus should remain on genuine self-improvement and serving others. The final aspect of this is don't allow people celebrating your successes to get to your head. Remember where you came from. Don't forget what it's like to fall. Don't become proud where you let your guard down or you become susceptible to falling into old habits. While you shouldn't feel as if you have to walk around with your head down, don't allow your transformation and the successes that you have from it allow you to become arrogant. Furthermore, there's a thin line between working to improve yourself for you and working to benefit others because of what it does for you as a person, and working for others because of the benefit it brings to you, be it money, women, or notoriety. Because again, I've told you this before, nobody likes a nobody, but becomes somebody and everybody wants a piece. The second you start putting in that work to benefit the world, people will start to notice. And the second that you start having an impact, the more that people will start to notice. And the more that people start to notice, the more that more people will start to notice. And eventually that nobody becomes a somebody. And along the way, it's real easy to lose yourself. It's real easy to lose your message to yourself. And it's real easy to start listening to all the wrong messages from the crowd. Previously, we talked about all the negative feedback that you can get from the haters and from the gatekeepers. But just as dangerous are all the people that now want to celebrate you. It's easy to fall for the trap of enjoying all of that positive feedback, especially after all of those years of negative self-talk and betrayal and haters and detractors. Finally, people are recognizing you again. They're giving you all of this attention. They're giving you love. They're giving you praise. Don't forget that these very same people were missing when you needed them most. Don't take the drug of attention because it's very addictive and it's just as destructive as something you get off the streets. People start to like you and you like people to like you. And then you start doing things to make sure that people continue to like you. And that is not a direction that you want to go in. That type of attention is poison. People are real familiar with the poison of toxic people. People that are always putting you down. People that are trying to humiliate you. People who want to make you feel inferior. But people often forget there's another type of toxic people out there. And those are the ones who always want to sing your praises and want to put you on a pedestal. You fall into this trap where you now become addicted to that love, to that attention. And now your work is no longer about your own self-improvement, about helping the people that you set out to benefit, about the mission that you set out to do. It's no longer about seeking the pleasure of God. Now it's become about you, but not your own self-improvement. It's become about your own ego and your vanity and your own self-interest and benefit. You need to stay grounded. You're not doing this to show off. You're not doing this for fame. You're not doing this to celebrate your mistakes. You're not playing the part of the reformed. This is not about gaining sympathy for your struggle. This is about self-improvement and benefiting the world with the gifts that you have to give. You are just another troubled soul trying to make your way through this journey called life. You're not perfect. You've never been perfect, and you're never going to be perfect. Don't forget to remain humble. The first victim to arrogance is humility. And when you lose your humility, it's real easy for you to fall back into the mistakes that cause you to go back to where you came from. When you're helping others, it can't be about you. It has to be about them. You're here to work. You're here to help others. You're not here to be celebrated. So long as you're on this earth and you are still breathing, it's time to work. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're trying to promote yourself for the purpose of being celebrated. If you're going to be placed on a pedestal, let God do that when it's time. The benefit you gain from this is a personal one and a spiritual one. Unfortunately, you're living in a world that tells you that this advice is crazy. It's telling you, by any means necessary, go after the likes, the clicks, the friends, the shares, the follows. Embellish a little bit. Lie if you have to. Do whatever you have to do to keep the attention on you and then capitalize on it. And so you see so many people who by every measure seem so fraudulent despite their efforts to feign sincerity. Too many people go out to do good in the world, and somewhere along the way, they turn their intentions of trying to benefit people to be all about them. And then their whole presence becomes nothing but marketing and self-promotion. So although your process is about you and about your own self-development and about using your efforts to develop your character and develop your spiritual relationship with God, don't make the work that you do to benefit others to become about you. And don't allow your work to become about the personality that others see as you. Make your work for God's sake and allow Him to repay you in a way that's unbefitting of this world. Not because you don't deserve it, but in hopes that it's too great to be wasted in this life.